Apple Car and the Truth Behind Titan, Part 1 of 2. Follow Apple's timeline starting from nearly a quarter century ago, in the early 2000s. Talk to 100 analysts, and you'll get just as many theories on what overarching theme is being foretold through the tea leaves. And, when it comes to speculation about the future, there is perhaps no bigger subject than that of the infamous Apple Car. Yes, Project Titan was a real endeavor. Yes, it involved at times a dozen, up to several hundreds or so engineers, software developers, technicians, and analysts. Yes, Apple built a concept vehicle nearly from the ground up. This video essay will explain why these are not clues that Apple is going to start making cars, but rather evidence of them preparing for a market the likes of which we have only dreamed of. Something Elon Musk said that I will most likely misquote should inform what clues we hone in on. His quote went something like,
"The cars are the easy part. It's the machines that build the cars that are difficult."
Meaning the assembly line is where the different thinking is needed if innovation is to have any chance of seeing daylight. It is fair to assume Apple too has learned that lesson with its own product line, none more so than the iPhone. And there is no apparent evidence of Apple investing in the sort of price of entry infrastructure indicative of and necessary to begin a move into the automotive market, the way it did when it entered the mobile phone market. Back in the early to mid-2000s, Apple became the largest purchaser of solid-state memory. As a result, it was able to control costs and limit supply for the competition for years, helping to drive iPod prices down, and enabled the iPad to enter the market at a jaw-dropping $499. They began leasing and later designing their own ARM silicon, giving them control of their release dates and eventually proving a viable platform for Macs in the future. Apple erected vast data centers on nearly every continent, scaling their cloud capabilities for iCloud and what would become a major push into services with Apple Card, Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, Apple Fitness Plus, and more. All these are indicators of Apple investing their genius and treasure into their future. If consistent, credible reports of Apple investing in automotive assembly line infrastructure, talent, or warehouses, we can safely head off to write our articles announcing the tech juggernaut's expansion into the automotive sector. Maybe they'll franchise Mac Motors dealerships. Speaking of dealerships, albeit tongue firmly in cheek, this brings up a number of factors that ooze red flags for Apple. When people throw around the phrase, the automotive industry, what they're really referring to is a hodgepodge of corporate, franchise, and third-party entities providing sales, service, and supply. Even if Apple pulled off some sort of automotive manufacturing Hail Mary, who is going to lay the brick and mortar for dealerships and then staff them? How long after would it take to then develop a service infrastructure? All this is to say nothing about the hiring of a legal department to manage regional, state, and local compliance issues. But wait, if Project Titan really did exist, and Apple really was pouring ungodly amounts of capital into an automotive venture, if we're never going to see Mac Motors dealerships, then what? During my time at Apple, we brought to market dozens of products that shifted the center of gravity of several industries, supply chains, and consumer behavior. It is easy to leap to theories or conjecture before looking at the truly Herculean undertaking required to achieve what is often speculated or rumored. In the early 2000s, following the release of iPod, iPod Mini, and iPod Nano, there was a clamoring from fans and industry insiders alike, all but begging Apple to deliver to market a mobile phone. This is precisely the point I am trying to communicate with regard to the Apple Car. Rewind back to the early years of the millennium. Imagine an alternate universe wherein Apple, at the behest of its leadership and rockstar CEO Steve Jobs, brought a mobile phone to market appeasing the masses. Let's say they launched sometime between 2002 and 2003. If you need a refresher of what things were like for Apple fans during this period, it's right in the thick of macOS Jaguar and Panther. iPods still sported en masse miniature hard disk drives. FireWire 400 was still a thing. If you wanted a right click, you would soon be able to buy the mighty mouse to do so. But also, consider the engineers that would have otherwise been spending their time developing and perfecting OS releases like Tiger would now be tied up with this premature 2002 to 2003 iPhone. The hundreds of millions of iPod users who would have already been fluent with iTunes and ripping and mixing and burning will not be there serving as a sort of built-in market when this early phone launches. And, speaking of launches, a phenomenon largely precipitated on the queuing up outside of Apple retail stores would find itself cut off at the knees, as there is nearly a third the number of brick-and-mortar Apple storefronts in existence compared to 2007. Point being, and I know this is repetitive, but there have been no outward signs of Apple maturing, or investing in, or acquiring any of the ancillary structures that would indicate a move to automotive manufacturing. But they are maneuvering, positioning themselves for something. And it's big. No, not the automotive industry. Not exactly. Consider the concept of the motorverse. The rise of the motorverse represents the maturing of the automobile. The responsibility of operating the vehicle shifting from humans to computers, the future development of an operating system for the interior experience, and the interaction of OS-based vehicles with each other and their surroundings. Make no mistake, the future capabilities of automobiles will require an advanced OS to function. And you can rest assured, as this future market emerges, Apple sees itself as the preeminent leader. Check out Part 2 to learn about the motorverse and how it will shape Apple's future.